So thankfully, there are medications that have proven to save lives in crisis situations. Check out this video from the National Institute on Drug Abuse.
No time to sit idly by. More and more people are dying of overdose from the likes of heroin, fentanyl, and prescription pain medications like oxycodone and hydrocodone. These are all examples of opioids. Opioids are drugs derived from the opium poppy plant or made in the lab. They can treat pain, cough, and diarrhea. But opioids can also be addictive and even deadly. The number of opioid overdose deaths has escalated more than 400% since the turn of the century, with tens of thousands of lives now being lost every year. But many deaths can be prevented with a life-saving treatment, naloxone. When given right away, naloxone can work in minutes to reverse an overdose. Naloxone is safe, has few side effects, and some forms can be administered by friends and family. When is naloxone used? You can save a life. First, recognize signs of overdose: limp body, pale, clammy face, blue fingernails or lips, vomiting or gurgling sounds, inability to speak or be awakened, slow breathing, or heartbeat. If you see these symptoms, call 911 immediately and consider the use of naloxone if available. How is naloxone given? Home preparations include a nasal spray given to someone while they lie on their back, or a device that automatically injects medicine into the thigh. Sometimes, more than one dose is needed. The person's breathing also needs to be monitored. If the person stops breathing, consider rescue breaths and CPR if you are trained until first responders arrive.
Very encouraging to know that there's something that we all can do. But let's take a minute to dig a little deeper into what opioids are and how they work. All opioids have a similar effect on the brain, reducing the intensity of pain signals reaching the brain and affecting the brain areas controlling emotion and breathing. Opioids include some prescription pain medications and other drugs like morphine, codeine, and the list goes on. Dr. Miller, I want to come to you. You and your team at the UF Scripps Institute, you study substance abuse disorders and its effect on the brain. Can you talk about brain chemistry and how that's linked to addictions and cravings?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all familiar with dopamine, I think, at this point. We have dopamine decor to make us happy because it's thought of as a sort of feel-good neurotransmitter in the brain. But the reason that drugs of abuse are so appealing is that they act as sort of a sledgehammer on the dopamine system in the brain. So there's a massive release of that feel-good chemical. And the effect that it has is actually to, over time, rewire the brain completely. And one of the brain regions that's affected is the amygdala, which is this small structure really deep in the brain that's sort of the emotional hub of the brain. And it processes both positive and negative. And so that sort of gets it leads to hyper focus on drugs, and it controls the craving that people experience when they encounter things that have become associated with drugs.
So, Dr. Lloyd, back to you. Talk about the relationship between the brain and addiction and how addiction actually alters the pleasure centers of the brain.
Well, I think Dr. Lewis's description was a very good one. You know, it takes a sledgehammer to the dopamine system. And, you know, I think the thing that people need to realize is that, you know, as far as the brain goes, the part of our brain that's responsible for our will and our desire to live is you know, part of the brain that's hijacked by whatever the chemical is, in this case, opioids. And so when you think about it, think about what you would do to save your own life. And the answer to that is anything, right? I mean, we are survivalists. We will do whatever it takes to preserve our own life. At the same time, it kind of shuts down executive functioning of the frontal lobe of our brain. And the frontal lobe of our brain is only important if you care about insight or judgment. If you don't care about those two things, then it doesn't matter. So so if you look at kind of the double whammy, I have to have this thing out here or I will die. And then losing the insight and judgment with regards to consequences or results of certain actions that it would take to procure that drug. So I think when you put that together, it shouldn't come as a surprise that somebody with untreated addiction will get a heart valve replacement in the hospital, secondary to injection drug use, and then we don't treat them how long does it take them to use drugs again when they're discharged? And the answer most of the time is the parking lot of the hospital. And so that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, Carla, but it does, because they don't understand these basic foundational concepts of the disease of addiction.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Lloyd, once again. There are some medications that have proven valuable in the treatment of opioid use disorder. Take a look at this video from the CDC.